Hi, my name is Cheryl Nomenson, and I'm a staff technical trainer for SolarWinds Academy. In this video, we're going to go over at a very high level how the alerting process works. An understanding of this process will help you configure the alerting wizard and then therefore configure the alerts to meet your needs. Okay, so we're going to begin with some pieces that are just happening all the time and are powered by the alerting engine. And that is scanning the database. Now, we are scanning the database looking for conditions that meet the trigger conditions of our alert. So we're looking for things that would meet the trigger to start this process. This is where it has the evaluating the frequency of the alert in the properties area of the alerting wizard. That's this piece here. Nothing to do with polling engines. How often are we scanning the database? And we're looking for conditions that meet the trigger conditions, that meet the thresholds. So does it meet the threshold? Okay. Now, if it does not meet the threshold, then we're going to say no, and it's going to end. So this cycle is happening quite constantly, or almost constantly. Now, if it does meet the threshold, actually, let's do this one. If it does meet the threshold, then we have a triggered element. Okay, we have a triggered element. This is not a fully qualified trigger or a fully qualified condition. The alert does not fire at this point. What we have is something that meets the conditions from the database. So we've pulled the data from the database, it meets those conditions. What we're going to look for next is, do we still have something that's a fully qualified condition? Because we have to make sure there is no suppression. So what is a suppression? A suppression is time of day. And if you've built alerts, you know that you can build in a time of day where the alert does or does not fire. Is it scoped? Has the alert been scoped in the trigger conditions, and the element that meets these thresholds is not within that scope? So those things like that are looked for to determine whether or not this triggered element is actually fully qualified. So if there is a suppression, then it ends, and it goes back through this process again. If there is not a suppression, then what we have is that fully qualified trigger condition. Okay, we have the fully qualified trigger condition here. Now, at this point, we look and say, do we have any actions that need to be taken? Because now we do have this qualified as an alert that needs to fire. So, do we have actions? While we're saying, do we have actions, something always happens at this point. And that is that this alert will display in the web console. So, are we displaying this alert in the web console? Always. Even if you go to this display piece or the message on your action and delete all of the variables, it'll still display, it'll just be blank. So this always happens when an alert fires. Are there any other actions? If so, like send an email or execute a script, execute those actions. And then once those actions are executed, the process ends. If there are no actions, it will display. and the process will end. So this is very high-level overview of what happens during the alerting process. And you can identify some of the places where I referenced the wizard, scanning the database, suppressions. These are why we make the recommendations that we make when we teach you how to build these alerts, so that you can fully utilize each of these pieces by understanding, just at a basic level, how this process works. For more information on building and optimizing alerts, please access the customer portal, the virtual classrooms for both on-demand and instructor-led training from SolarWinds Academy. Thank you for watching.